You want a rule to apply in one directory, so you write only in this folder in your memory file. It doesn't work. Here's why and what does. Welcome to the Atlas. You've got a project memory file full of instructions. This episode answers one question: how do you make a single rule apply in only one directory? Your project memory file started small. Now it's past 200 lines, and half its rules only matter in one package. Every unrelated task still loads all of it. The context fills up, and the agent follows the rules less reliably. The documentation is blunt about the cause. A memory file at the root loads in full at the start of every session for the whole repository. It even recommends a ceiling: keep it under 200 lines, because longer files consume more context and get followed less. So when a rule only matters in one place, leaving it in the global file is the wrong home. The docs say it plainly: if a rule only matters for one part of the codebase, move it out of the always loaded file. But how you move it is the whole question. There's a wrong way that feels right and two right ways. Here's the wrong answer that feels right. You keep the rule in the root memory file and you add a line: the following rule applies only to the AP folder. It reads like scoping. It scopes nothing. The reason is mechanical. The agent reads memory files by walking up the directory tree from wherever you are, and every file it finds is concatenated into context. Not overridden. Not filtered. A file at the root sits above everything, so it loads for every session in the repository. The words "only in the API folder" are just more text in a file that's already global. The agent sees them while working in the web folder too. And remember, a memory file is context, not enforced configuration. Even a perfectly scoped instruction is guidance, not a guarantee. This is the trap the question exists to break. You cannot scope a rule by describing the scope inside a global file. Scope is an address, not a sentence. The simplest fix changes the address by moving the file. You put a memory file inside the directory the rule belongs to. Now the rule's reach is the folder it lives in. Here's the mechanism. The agent discovers memory files in subdirectories below where you are. But instead of loading them at launch, it pulls them in only when it reads a file in that subdirectory. So a rule in the app folder's memory file is in context while the agent works in the app folder, and absent while it works anywhere else. The docs show the proof directly. Start the agent in the app folder, and it loads the root file and the app folder's file, and it skips the web folder's file entirely. The web folder's instructions are never in context. That's scoped by location. The folder is the boundary. It's the right tool when a directory's owner should hold their own rules, versioned right next to their code. But sometimes you want all your rules in one place and still scope them. That's the second answer. The second answer keeps every rule in one place at the root and scopes by a glob. You write the rule under the .claude rules folder, and you give it a paths field. By default, a rule there loads at launch and applies to every file. But add a paths field with a glob and it flips. Now it's conditional. It only applies when the agent works with a file matching that pattern. The contrast is exact. A rule without a paths field loads everywhere. A rule with one loads only for its matches. The documentation's own example scopes a rule to every TypeScript file under the AP folder. Touch a file in the AP folder, the rule loads. Touch a file in the web folder, it stays out of context. You can list several patterns and use brace expansion to match a few extensions at once. One central file, scoped by what it matches, not by where it sits. So now you have two real answers. Move the file into the directory, or keep it central and give it a glob. Which one you reach for depends on who owns the rule and how scattered the files are. Both answers scope to part of the tree. They differ on where the file lives and when it loads, and that's the whole basis for choosing. Reach for the per directory file when ownership is local. A team owns a package, and their rules should travel with their code, versioned right beside it. They maintain their own conventions in their own folder. Reach for the path scoped rule when you want one governed place for all your conventions. Or when the same rule has to cover files scattered across the tree that no single folder contains, a glob can match them all from one central file. Same outcome. A rule in one scope. Different shape of ownership. There's no single winner. The right answer is the one that matches who owns the rule and how the files are spread. That judgment is the exam. And if the rule is really a multi-step procedure, there's a third home. If the rule is really a procedure, a checklist, a multi-step routine, it shouldn't sit in always loaded memory at all. It belongs in a skill. And a skill can be scoped by the very same glob. A skill's front matter takes the same paths field as a rule. Set it, and the agent loads the skill automatically only when working with matching files. You can place the skill inside a directory, so it loads on demand there, or keep it at the root with a glob, so it applies to certain files wherever they live, like a migration skill scoped to every migrations folder in the repo. The split is simple. A standing fact is a rule. A multi-step procedure is a skill. Same address mechanism either way. You set up the scope. Is it actually conditional, or is it quietly loading everywhere? Don't assume. There's a hook that logs exactly which instruction file loaded, when, and why. It fires every time a memory file or a rule file enters context at launch for the always-on files, and again later when files load lazily. Each event carries a load reason. Session start means it's a global file. Nested traversal means a subdirectory file loaded because the agent went there. Path glob match means a scoped rules pattern fired, and the event even reports the glob in the file that triggered it. So now you don't guess. A scoped rule that shows path glob match or nested traversal is proven conditional. One that shows session start is global. One caution, the hook only observes. It logs and tracks. It can't block what loads. 5 wrong answers, each looks right until you hit the boundary. This is what the certification tests. Not whether you can name the feature, whether you know its edge. Mistake 1, Pros scopes it. Writing only in the OP folder in the root file changes nothing. The root file applies everywhere. Mistake 2, a nested file is a hard block. It isn't. A memory file is guidance. If you need to truly block an action, that's a pre-tool use hook, not a memory file. Mistake 3, files have a hard precedence. They don't. They're concatenated, and when two conflict, the agent picks by judgment. The more specific one only tends to win. Mistake 4, the home rules folder scopes to a directory. It doesn't, it applies to every project on your machine. Mistake 5, an ancestor file is scoped to its folder. It applies to its whole subtree. To scope to one folder, the file goes in that folder, not above it. Pull it together. The question was, enforce a rule in only one directory. The answer is an address, chosen 3 ways. Move the file into the directory, and the folder is the boundary. Keep one file at the root and give it a paths glob, and the pattern is the boundary. For a procedure, the same glob on a skill. Pick the per directory file when the rule travels with its owner's code. Then pick the central glob when the rule spans scattered files, or you want one governed place. And whichever you choose, prove it with the hook. A scoped rule reads as path glob match or nested traversal, never session start. The rule that was bloating every session now lives exactly where it applies and nowhere else. Scope is an address, not a sentence. 5 things to carry with you. 1, the root file applies everywhere, so pros can't scope it. 2, a memory file inside the folder loads only there. 3, a rule in the .claude rules folder with a paths glob scopes by match. 4, a procedure goes in a skill with the same glob. 5, the hook's load reason proves it, path glob match, or nested traversal. Scope is an address, not a sentence, and now you can prove the address. Thank you for watching the Atlas. If this helped, subscribe. There are more in this series on the way. Next up, hooks and permissions, the layer that turns guidance into something the agent can't ignore. When a rule stops being advice and becomes enforced.